evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome here to the season opener of Season 59 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Getting ready for another 15 race schedule, total of 9 regular season races to determine the drivers that will battle for the championship in 6 playoff races, and we're ready to bring you every lap of the action here on the Flatout Racing Network. We kick things off here at Talladega Super Speedway, 66 laps on tap, and it is a clean slate for everyone. We almost got a full field here tonight, so should be a lot of action this evening. Will it be trying to avoid the caution? Will it be preparing for green flag pit stops? We've seen both sides of that coin play its part into not only eventually who wins the championship or who makes it into the playoffs, but who goes to victory lane. I'm Seth Cole, soon to be joined by Matthew Rodriguez. Oh, there we go. We got him here. So Matt, clean slate. Everybody's starting at square one, 0 points on the board. We talk about this all the time with season openers. Everybody wants to get that first checkered flag, and of course, in the case of the postseason, wants to get that first automatic ticket into the championship battle, which is the playoffs. You kind of get the feeling that this is going to be one of the most aggressive races we're going to see during the regular season.
I say it time and time again, if it's the first race of the season, swing for the fences. Hey, worst thing you can do, you can junk the car. Don't worry, we've got the rest of the season to kind of catch up. Obviously, you want to get off to a good start of the season, but hey, if you can get that early win, you can just kind of play around the rest of the season, make sure you're still in contention, and then it's go time.
Been very good couple of seasons for driver 88 Grant Wesley. 3 seasons ago, he picked up his very first championship here in the Talladega Challenge Series, and then last season, doubled down with his second championship, being another multi-time winner here in this series, joining several other drivers. But when you come into a season, especially a Super Speedway Series season, are you that public enemy number one? Are you that guy that everybody's looking at of, I want to finish ahead of this guy?
I mean, I can speak from experience. After you win that Super Speedway championship, people just kind of look at you a little differently. They kind of think that you know what's going on and that you're going to kind of blitz them. And it's one of those uneasy feelings that you have eyes on you. You just don't really know how to follow up the expectations.
Well, one thing that definitely played its part in the outcome of races last season, and maybe even into the championship itself, is the random draw qualifying. And by virtue of the random qualifying tonight, Chris Emery in the 000, that bright neon yellow machine, that's not going to be difficult to see on the track here tonight. He's got the pole position alongside of Cy Jones, Joe DeSpirito, Nate Balsa. They're going to make up row number 2. Doug Woolley makes his return back to the series, a former champion here of the Tally Challenge. He's going to make up row number 3 with Jessica Shelton. Bobby Farrow and Doug Hewlick there in row 4 with Billy Elliser and Richard Martin completing the top 10. Mark Paglia, JT Mayhew, they're back in row number 6. Row 7 is going to find Tim Knopfsker and Milt Surratt. Keith Bynum, Tom Dixon, they're in row 8. Row 9, Jason Scheck, new number for him this season. He's going to join Dante Ricky. And then completing the top 20 is going to be Dave Melson and Rodney Sullins. You go back to row 11, that's where you find Brian Schilling and Greg Palmer. Row 12, Bob Seminara and Jeff Crivello. Row 13's Bernie Mobbs and Bob Dixon. Jeremy Jeffries, he makes up row 14 with Kelly Causey, and row 15, the top 30 completed with Glenn Harris and Chuck McClure, who picked up a Super Speedway win in the RTR Super Speedway Series this past Tuesday night. You gotta go all the way back to 31st place. That's where you find the defending champion, Grant Wesley. He joins Wayne Pribnow back in the 16th row. Row 17, Ron Hagelin and Brian Ronson. Row 18, Craig Hagley, Robbie Nisus. Row 19, way back there for Josh Metallic and Terry Bombard. And completing the final row, the top 40, Mike Rogers and Jerm Lewis. A lot of trucks for drivers to pass that start near the rear of the field.
It's really for anyone who really knows how to work the draft. Getting through the field is really just fun.
Well, here we go. 66 laps of racing to see who's going to get the first checkered flag of season 59. It's Chris Emery on the bottom, Cy Jones on the top, leading us down through the long tri-oval. Normally the start-finish line would be back there if we were at Daytona. You got to come down all the way to turn 1's entrance. Green flag in the air. Here we go. You talked about swinging for the fences, Matt. I mean, at the beginning of a race, especially the beginning of a season, the adrenaline is at an all-time high. So I got a feeling it's not going to take these drivers very long to get back to that familiar 3x3x3 all the way through the field that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and you got to think, I mean, obviously, why you want to swing for the fences, you have to keep a little bit of caution in the wind where obviously you can't be making moves to win the race on lap one. You have to wait till about, hey, we get within the 62, 63, the point of no return. That's when we can really start, battling, not having to worry about anything. But past that, you obviously want to make sure you're there at the end so you have a shot.
Multi-time champion Joe DeSpirito jumped to the outside of Chris Emery, had a lot of drafting partners, and he's going to complete lap number 1 out in front. Remember, it was only a couple of weeks ago that Joe DeSpirito picked up a victory in the Super Speedway All-Star race, so obviously kind of trying to ride that mojo here in the season opener.
Looking back here through the field, at least the good top 10 are all single file, but once you get past that top 10, you see them almost all 3 wide back there.
Is that a case, do you think, of desperation for all those drivers that didn't get lucky on the lotto draw? They're wanting to get out of that eye of the storm, that middle of the pack, and get back up to a place that they're a little bit more comfortable with.
I mean, everyone has their own little strategy to get to the front. Obviously, some want to take it a little bit slower. Hey, we'll take it as it comes. No worries. We'll get up to the front. Others I know have just kind of bulldozed their way up to the front. It really depends on your feel for the race. How confident do you think you're going to be able to get through this field? Do you think there's a wreck that's going to happen?
Of course, if this is the first time you've tuned into a season here of the Tally Challenge, it's an alternation between Talladega and Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway now. That debuted last season. Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway played a huge part into the outcome of the championship. It was the regular season finale. It was also where the eliminations were for each round of the playoffs and where the championship was decided at the end of the season. Mixing it up a little bit, though, this year, Matt, because as mentioned, it was 8 regular season races last season. It's now 9 regular season races, so now Talladega is put on the hot seat for all those elimination and kind of last chance moment win opportunities for drivers.
I'm really happy about that with it being the Talladega Challenge, but you may not think that one race has that big an effect, but realistically, with winning, you're in playoffs and really point standings and point battles coming all the way down to the end. That one race makes all the difference of someone locking themselves in and maybe just getting bumped out for a spot.
Billy Elliser leading that outside line. Kelly Causey there in the 00. Chuck McClure up there on the top side in the 17. I believe that is the 22 of Greg Palmer. It is right behind him. And there's Grant Wesley. Where did I say he started this race? 31st, and he's already up inside of the top 15. So you mentioned it. If you got a fast car, you know who to work with, and you're able to see where the momentum is. Doesn't take you very long to get from the back to the front.
Yeah, I've got some bad memories of that highlighter yellow Menards car, so I'm not too surprised to see him making his way to the front of the field. I'm still in the little bit of a category of I think it may be a little bit too early, but obviously if you're going to show dominance, it's easier to do it early.
We've had some Cinderella stories here in the Tally Challenge, and last season, a lot of them took place at the beginning of the year. It was the season opener here at Talladega where John Godfrey picked up his second career victory. And then the following week, they see that 23 there on the inside for the 6th position. Doug Hewlick at the very first race at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway picked up his first career victory. So if you're looking for those underdog stories of drivers to maybe try and snipe a position in the playoffs, you might be looking at the early portion of this season as well.
Just kind of trying to look back here through the pack, seeing if I can find at least some rhyme or rhythm, or maybe some guys who are just trying to fall back. Right now, it kind of seems like everyone's kind of setting their lines, setting their strategies. I do notice a few stragglers that maybe just look like they don't have any friends yet, or they're just trying to find their friends. Tim Nosker dropping through the field is kind of an entertaining one for me. I'm not used to seeing this.
Nosker right now, last time by being scored, looked like in the 12th position. Started this race back in the, if I can find him on my list here, looked like he was, I had him and then I lost him.
Looking here, it looks like Nosker started.
There he is.
He's
13th.
Way back. Okay.
13th, drifted to the back, and then kind of started moving his way forward again. We're focused on the 079 because I mentioned the fact that last year the season opener was won by John Godfrey. Well, the season before that was this guy, Nate Balzer, who went to victory lane. Now, unfortunately, he was not able to stay high enough in the point standings for his win to count towards a playoff spot, so maybe looking for a little bit of redemption from a couple of seasons ago. And how impressive right now is that Sunoco Chevrolet of Cy Jones? More often than not, when Cy Jones gets a good qualifying effort, he takes the voluntary EOL to the rear of the field, but he decided to stick it out here today, and he's kept that thing up inside of the podium here in these first 7 laps. Very strong run.
New season, new Jones. I mean, you got to look at it. If you're really trying to make a serious effort, I mean, listen, taking those voluntary EOLs are all good and dandy, but listen, you really need to, as I say that as he's falling through the field, but you really do need to have that step up and saying, okay, well, listen, I know that I could start in the back and it may be a little bit safer. Maybe it's a little bit more fun driving up to the field, but starting up front, if you have that opportunity, hey, that just basically lets you control the field, control the flow.
AFC to the point. Billy Elliser led that outside line, stuck with it, and they're now going to forge ahead. Kelly Causey right behind him. Chuck McClure there in the 17, who went winless last season, trying to snap a season-plus long winless streak. And then Greg Palmer looking for his first win of his career. And there's Grant, now side-by-side with Joe DeSpirito. Those two side-by-side for position. You could kind of go back to last season and have the same kind of a side-by-side look because it was only 1 point that separated those two for the championship. Wesley over DeSpirito.
Just looking back here, super speedways are the one place that you can make a move and instantly regret it, or at least one of the places where you can kind of see your instant regret for about the next lap and a half as they kind of ride beside you or probably drive away from you. And I'm noticing that all throughout the field of guys pulling out, thinking they got the run, or think maybe that guy in the high line will let him in, and then nope, he doesn't have any room. One of those candidates we saw in the middle of the pack, looks like the 23 of Doug Hewlick.
And I know that they're entirely different racetracks, but you could kind of similarize what you're describing here at Talladega to kind of like Martinsville when you get kicked up to the outside line and you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for an opportunity to get back down to the bottom. I mean, you can take no time at all, 2-3 laps to be able to work your way up 5 positions, but then you have to, if you get kicked out of blind, you wait 3, 4, 5 laps to drop back and be able to try and work your way back forward again.
You know, it's been a minute since I heard the Martinsville comparison. At least with Martinsville, I mean, if I don't like the guy on the bottom line and I think I can get a shot at him, I can just run the back of him, knock him up the hill. At least with this, you hit someone in the back, unfortunately, they're most likely going into the fence, and they're probably going to take you with them.
Yeah, the similarity I made is the only one you're getting. The bump and run does not work here. That was a checkup on the top there. Milt Surratt had to lift for JT Mayhew. He backed into Wayne Prebnow, who then backed into Dave Melson. Got to keep an eye on that with the checkup. Communication is key in super speedway racing, especially when you have the stack-ups take place because, yeah, that first or second truck, they know that there's a point where you have to lift, but that third, fourth, fifth truck further back, they may not know about that, and somebody gets run over, that could lead to the dreaded big one.
So here's a fun kind of head-scratcher for you. When it comes to pit strategy, I mean, what's your thought process? Do you want to be the first one on pit road? Do you want to be in the middle? Or do you want to be the last ones on pit road possible, trying to get as many laps as you can?
Well, here's the tough part. Here's the catch-22 about it, because we've seen different varying strategies work out here in this series. The first thing you want to do is you want to come with as many friends as you possibly can. We know that's like a usual super speedway strat, because the more drivers you have, the quicker you get up to speed, the better lap times you're going to turn, and the more likelihood is you're going to cycle out as the lead pack. But at the same time, the bigger the group you come down with, the more chances you have of either running someone over or getting run over. And so we've ended up seeing pit road issues with big packs of cars. Honestly, I think the strat that I've seen in the past that has worked out the best is if you come down pit road with maybe just 5 or 6 other drivers. If you come down with 10, 12, then you've got that possible room for error. So we'll see if we're going to have like small packs that come down pit road or a big pack, because we're actually getting close to that fuel window when these drivers are going to have to think about maybe making the first green flag pit stop of the day. This next time by, we'd be in the realm of about 7-8 laps away from when pit road will start to play a factor.
Yeah, I think really my preference has to be as late in the run as possible, unless there's a certain fuel number that I'm confident, even if this kind of runs long, or maybe if I get out in front and I have to be the lead car, that I'm confident with, maybe being within a lap of it. But with how closely these cars are together and really how much I'm seeing these lines develop, I would not be comfortable trying to shortcut it a little bit.
Got an inside line forming here, and I think this is more trying to work their way forward rather than trying to get to the bottom in preparation for that green flag pit stop. Dante Ricky and Bob Seminara, they were doing good work there. Dave Melson jumps down, and now Richard Martin, Demar, and the John Deere Chevrolet going to lead that inside line. They're picking them up one position at a time, but they're losing a little bit of time here on the straightaways. That's normal for Talladega. We've always seen that this middle line is more preferred because you don't get nearly as tight. You don't have that kind of push up off the corner, off of 2 and off of 4, and that translates to about a mile, 2 miles per hour of straightaway speed, which at a super speedway, even a thousandth of a mile per hour is important.
It may sound odd, but I really do love the high line for just riding and kind of just hanging with there. But if it's really go time, no matter what, you'll most likely find me on the bottom line just trying to find someone who will slip up just so I can just gain one position here, one position there, because when it finally kicks off in that final lap, I could probably start making up moves.
Mentioned Jason Scheck, number change this season. He was the 44 last year, now swapping over to the 02. Still the Budweiser red colors on his Chevrolet, and leading the third line with Tim Nofsker, Brian Schilling, Josh Metallic up there as well. You mentioned about that top line there too. I'm also very comfortable running on that top line. The problem is you run up on that outside line. If trouble takes place in front or beneath you, there's nowhere to go but the wall. So it's a risk-reward kind of thing when you're running up there on that third lane.
And that's why trust really matters so much about who you have around you, who you have behind you. It's really everything about super speed racing is how much you trust the guy in front of you, how much you trust the guy behind you, how much you trust the guy beside you. And it may vary from who in the world is this guy to, oh yeah, I know him, I'm going to punt him in the next corner. It's really how comfortable you are with him, and that allows you to be bolder and be more confident in your moves, where if you know the guy behind you has been with you for years and he may push you to a victory, maybe you trust him into this next corner. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try swing for the fences, but if I have a guy behind me that I have no clue who you are, this is probably your first race, I'm probably playing it as conservative as I can, or just trying to jump into a different lane so I can find someone who I know who's going to work with me.
Really interesting you brought that up, because I just went to look and see if we did have any drivers making their debuts, and no, we had a couple of drivers make debuts last year. Keith Hughes, Craig Hagley, Brian Ronson, all making their first starts, but every driver that is in the field here has made a start previously. Oh, caution's out. I'm hearing the 23 blew up.
Just looking back at it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
He is slow.
We had a couple of drivers that were on pit road here, Dante Ricky and Jeremy Jeffries. This is not going to help them, because with the caution coming out, pit road is closed. They're just going to have to pass through pit road, and they're going to lose all of that track position that they had.
Now I'm just looking at it here. Man, that thing just died on right as he is entering 3. It just gave up.
Buick started this race from the 8th position. Former playoff contender from last year, and running the about the second third of the field.
Not a good day for Team TRD.
Not at all. Ooh. Boy, good heads up driving there by Mike Rogers and Wayne Pribb now to jump up to the outside line. That sudden decrease in speed of a truck in front of you, if you don't know what's going on, that can usually tear up a bunch of race cars, or in this case, trucks, and we're very lucky that that was just the 23 having his moment and nobody else collected up in it.
I think it's great awareness by both Doug and everyone around him. Just Doug recognized that, hey, I'm blowing up. Best thing I can do is really just hold my lane, try to let everyone around me, and I'm sure, at least in the voice chat, he was probably screaming out, hey, I'm blowing up and blowing out, go around. And everyone having the heads up awareness to say, okay, I need to jump out of the way and not try to get behind him or try to dodge to a different lane, or that just shows awareness.
Yeah, and I know that there's a thing that happens in NR where if you end up blowing up, you can throw in the clutch, shut off the engine, and it will avoid a caution coming out. But to your point, priorities first. Let everybody know what's going on. Make sure that you keep your car pointed in a straight direction and not switch from lane to lane. If the caution comes out, okay, but at least you don't have other drivers, other innocent victims collected up in it. As we're following these pit stops here, Kelly Causey was first in, but I don't think he's going to be first out. Chuck McClure in the 17s ahead of him. I think Nate Balser actually might end up winning the battle off of pit road. Oh, no, he's having to pit in. It is going to be Chuck McClure winning the battle off of pit road over Kelly Causey, and I believe Grant Wesley came out in the 3rd position. So
Five
lead
cars
change
stayed
on pit
out.
road.
Yeah, 5 cars stayed out. It looks like it was Robbie Nice's Cy Jones, Terry Bombard, Jason Carvello, and Jason Scheck.
I think these guys are going to have to come to pit road here under this pacing period. It might be to try and get a bonus point for a lap led, because that caution came out, I believe it was lap 16, and that would have been just a couple laps removed from when they were going to have to make a green flag pit stop. Going to have to work the calculator here, because I think we're still going to be 2 stops from the finish here.
Never know. Could shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, if we go green for a 66 lap race, I believe it is a 3 stop, and you add in the extra 2 or 3 laps that they would have been short of reaching the complete capacity of the fuel tank. I think it's still going to be a 2 stop from here. But first caution of the season, engine failure for Doug Hewlick. The tough break there for Doug is the fact that it's a 40 truck field. So that's a lot of points that he's losing out on here at the beginning of the season.
That's why the first race, if you have an incident in the first race where you just can't continue, that's where it hurts the most. Where even if you get a little bit of damage, or let's say you bounce off the wall here or there, it's always best just to keep going. Even with a damaged truck, at least you maybe would, kind of salvage maybe a 30th place finish, and that'll help you going forward. But wrecking out of the first race or having an engine failure in the first race definitely is not what was intended.
Like Robbie Nice is going to lead a lap here, and he'll probably pit the next time by, which will turn the race lead over to the 17 of Chuck McClure. So as these pit stops take place and we pace for our first caution of the evening here at Talladega, we're going to step aside for a commercial break from our sponsor, Ultimate Garage Floors. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services, so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. Light should go out atop the pace truck this time by lap 20's completion is when we will go back green. You saw Robbie Nices make the turn to pit road, gets the bonus point for a lap led. So it will be Chuck McClure, Kelly Causey, Grant Wesley, Jessica Shelton, and Richard Martin, the top 5 when we get ready to go back green. You see them all swapping up lanes there mid-pack. As first caution of the day, just joining us, engine failure for Doug Hewlick. He's the only retiree out of the race at this point in time. The other 39 drivers still running and currently on the lead lap.
Just looking through the field here, there is no shortage of amazing paint schemes in this field. You have everywhere from, hey, let's just kind of keep going through the field here. You got In-N-Out, you got Krispy Kreme. It is the battle of fast food here. KFC, I think I saw a McDonald's car somewhere here.
Have you seen the Cookie Monster car?
I have not. I saw the Kermit car, though.
Yeah, the 338. I don't know why, but whenever I see the Cookie Monster car, that just kind of seems like something you would do.
I've thought about it before, but I will admit I've cut back on cookie intake for health reasons.
The man who sends me a Big Bird meme before a broadcast would definitely put Cookie Monster on his car.
Did you know that Big Bird died in the challenge explosion?
I did. I knew
did.
that. 30 seconds before a broadcast, I knew this fact.
I gotta find that one again.
Oh gosh, keep him away from the keyboard. We gave you the top 5, top 10 going to be completed. Dave Melson, Tim Nofsker, Joe DeSpirito, Bob Seminara, and Greg Palmer. So far, we've had, I believe, 5 drivers that have led laps in this one. 6 laps led by Joe DeSpirito, 2 by Kelly Causey. Chuck McClure just led his first lap of the evening, and then Jason Scheck and Robbie Nices won apiece. Actually, 6 drivers have led laps. 8 laps were led by Billy Elliser, who will restart back in 16th position. Okay, so we've had a caution. We've had a round of pit stops.
Send it.
I was just going to ask, is this the calm down period, the kind of let's try and get to the halfway point, or is this the, all right, we've now the adrenaline's kind of quelled down. Now let's see what these trucks can do.
I mean, in my personal opinion, with button seat here and not in the car, I would say, let's calm down, boys. We can make it around to the end. But I'm a little bit more in the driver's seat of, let's send it for giggles. Let's see how far, let's see if we're back in the pack right now, how quickly I can cut and dice through the field. So I'll fall back a little bit and I'll wait to the end of the race when I know I have to start cutting through the field.
Nice move there. Grant Wesley timed that green flag drop perfectly. Oh, is that Mark Paglia down there? He saves it. They got to let him back up. Don't know who he made contact with, but hangs on to it off of 2, and he's back merged with the field. Looks like he's still up to speed as well.
Yeah, I think it was really just he got the apron just a little bit with the front end and pulled it right on around. Did a great job not spinning it around, but definitely lost a few spots.
Going to have a tough time. Saw this livery in the All-Star race, the Super Speedway All-Star race a couple of weeks ago, and the color scheme reminds me of the Joker, so I'm going to have a tough time not calling that the Joker mobile this year. We've got Batman in the field with Tom Dixon, so, Batman and Joker, it seems about appropriate.
I'm a little bit sad because I saw Batman on it, but I saw Kermit on it, and I didn't see Kermit in the Batman costume, so I'm a little bit disappointed with that.
Oh, man. The things that should have been, right? Oh, boy. Top 6, top 7 look like they're going to get single-filed out there. But Grant Wesley did a great job, as I was going to mention, on that restart. Gave a big shove to Chuck McClure, and both of them were able to clear the 00 of Kelly Causey, move up to that middle line. We've seen this season after season, the Joey Logano coined phrase okie dokie, where the drivers know, hey, we work well together, but we're in staggered rows. Let's try and work something out so that we were in that middle line when we come off of turn 2.
I did notice on that restart, I'm not really sure if it was intended or unintended, that tie line did not get going about 3 cars back, and they actually did start kind of bouncing into each other. Wasn't sure if that was a planned checkup or if that was a kind of a miscue on restart.
It could have been maybe trying to time when the green flag was going to come out, and if you mistime that bump just the least little bit, to your point, it does stack up the trucks further on back, so it might have been something along that line. Is inside line trying to move forward, Richard Martin, Tim Nofsker, and Bob Seminara, but for the moment it's definitely looking like the momentum is on the top. But look there, Richard Martin sees a little gap right in front of JT Mayhew, and he is going to take it. That's going to leave Nofsker as the lead truck on the inside line now.
And I've just looked here. It looks like Tom Dixon may have just fallen off the field a little bit. Looks like he's lost a draft to Robbie Nices.
Yeah, that's tough in this race, in these races with this track. I've run in this series before, and I know the feeling when you're that last truck in line. It is very difficult to hold on to the draft, and Tom Dixon did restart the last truck in the field, and so therefore with no benefit of somebody to help push him and keep him up with this lead group, to your point, I think he is indeed starting to lose touch with our big pack of 38, so he'll be hoping for a caution or maybe a stack up in the middle of the field to get back up with him.
And it's getting dicey back here for 30th. I'm seeing Nate Balzer put in the middle. And they almost pushed it 4 wide there for a second. Thought better of it. Now we're back 2.
Keith Bynum back there as well. Looked like he was trying to make it 3 wide. And the number 63 Couple of drivers that have made their way up here into the top 10. Bernie Mobbs in the number 31, former playoff contender from a couple of seasons ago. Different colors. We're used to seeing him in the leaf filter car, but he ran Sitco for the first time last season and trying to see if he can go back to victory lane for the first time in a couple of seasons. A little bit further back there on that outside line, that is the 26 of Billy Elliser, and right behind him, Milt Surratt in the 80. Nice to have Milt back in the field. Milt's been battling some health issues. We saw him a couple of times last season, but great to see him back in the field here for the season opener. Hopefully we'll see him for the entirety of the season. Right behind him, Craig Hagley, who we had Keith Hughes go to victory lane a couple of times last season, but Craig Hagley turned some heads. Very consistent runs in the second half of the season. He ended up making his first start last year, and now full-time. We'll see what he's going to be able to do in that it's a West Virginia-sponsored Ford F-Series.
I'm just looking back there to the field. Terry Bombard had his bumper straight on Jerm Lewis. Almost looked like he was going to wreck for a minute, but he is committed to that man.
Terry Bombard had some good runs last year. Podium finish. Oh, gosh. A little bump right there into the back of Jerm Lewis that may have scuffed up the right side of that unsponsored 616. I think he got the wall there, just crossing the start finish line. I think these guys back here are saying, let's get a third. Oh, Mike Rogers. They're trying to get a third line going, but there's no organization right now. Hagelin, I think, just brushed the wall in the back straightaway.
Two guys I want behind me on a restart has to be Cy Jones and Terry Bombard. I have never seen someone push with that much intensity.
Some of the drivers you got back here, too. Dante Ricky in that Mug Root Beer Toyota Tundra. He's mired back outside of the top 25, a former winner from last season. We didn't see him run full-time either, but he was able to go to victory lane in a part-time capacity. Glenn Harris also back there, I saw, in the 8 car. I was going to say the 08, but that was his number from a couple of seasons ago. He swapped over to the 8 last year as we move back up to the front, and still single file for amongst the top 8 or so. Still got Richard Martin, Tim Nofsker, and Bob Seminara on that inside line, but around this 10th position is where the fun is with the double wide racing.
I'm looking at Richard Martin. I know at one point I'm waiting for him to go through the grass. That thing looks cool, but man, it looks like it belongs in the grass. I've
already made the reference, nothing runs like a deer, a couple of times last season. So, yeah, you wouldn't be the first if you go there.
But now I'm seeing that whole really top 10 has that whole kind of strategy. Let's ride in one lane. Let's try to save some gas. Let's try to control the field. What they're doing is really controlling the line. Obviously, the middle line, like you said, is the preferred line. It feels a lot better. It makes sense to run the bottom and force people like, hey, if you want to pass us, you're gonna have to do it either the hard way on the middle or hard way on the low lane, or you're gonna have to send it all the way up top and hope you can beat us in the drag race.
Rodney Sullins in the 38. Last year was in the Final Four. As a matter of fact, he's made the Final Four in 2 out of the last 3 seasons. Ended up hearing from him earlier on today. He was in for an MRI, was uncertain if he was going to be able to make it back in time for this race, and he said if he was able to show up, he would probably just be riding. Well, right now he's riding in the 17th position, but very consistent driver last season. He ended up, as we mentioned, being in the championship battle. I think he might be, I'm one of those people that like to look at statistics and everything. He might be Grant Wesley's good luck charm, because the 2 seasons that Rodney Sullins has made the Final Four, Grant Wesley has gone on to win the championship. Not sure Rodney would like that stat, but yeah, that's been a thing in the past 3 seasons.
I'm seeing, they just got broken up, but I saw Jerm Lewis and Terry Bombard really just kind of leading that outside line, and they just got separated there. I think they got a little bit sketchy on the bumper, but it looks like that high side can really make some good time, especially with everyone kind of running the middle on the gas, on the brake, just trying to keep it off one another. It definitely leaves a lot of room open on the top.
It's interesting because I remember back when we were first starting to broadcast this series, Jerm Lewis was in the 616, Chris Emery was in the 222 at the time, and those 2 were teammates. Well, the random qualifying here tonight had a very interesting sense of irony because it put Emery on the pole and it put Jerm Lewis in dead last, so completely separated those teammates on the grid.
And that's the thing where I definitely like the Lotto Q element of just, you never know what you're going to get. And obviously, you can kind of try and coordinate with your teammates of, oh, yeah, let's try and aim for this spot. Or, hey, it looks like majority of us are in the back, so let's all fall back here. Or, hey, it looks like most of us are in the front. Let's try and fight our way up there. With this, it just kind of gives you no choice of, oh, I don't know if we're going to be next to a teammate. Let's find out.
Well, a driver that is not necessarily, well, he's not necessarily not in favor of random qualifying. He just wish it would cut him a break as Bob Seminara. Last season, I believe it was 12 or 13 races into the year, he had an average starting position of around 25th. I think he had only one start inside of the top 15. He had a decent starting spot, I remember, for the finale, but the qualifying gods have not been kind to him as far as Lotto Q has been concerned, and even tonight, they put him pretty deep in the field. He rolled off the grid from 23rd, but right now inside the top 20, still trying to get an inside line going there with Richard Martin and Tim Knopfsker, but nothing doing.
I'm just watching Terry Bombard. I swear, nothing runs like a deer, but nothing pushes like a Ford F-Series. My goodness.
I actually believe that is a Toyota, if I'm not mistaken. I think Terry's a Toyota.
No, he's a Ford.
Is he a Ford? Okay.
Yeah, the Ford is halfway in the Joker's eyes.
Oh, okay. You know, that must be it. I must have seen the Joker face and seen the mouth. The mouth kind of reminds me of the opening for a Toyota in a way. That's where I've been going wrong all this time.
Kind of reminds me of that Old Spice or the Head and Shoulders car.
Oh, the Corey LaJoie beard car? Oh, my gosh. Think somebody would ever run a car like that in this series?
I don't know how that translates to the hood.
Imagine looking back in your rearview mirror being pushed by a car with that on its hood.
Put some teeth on it, it'll be fine.
Hey, I've run a car with teeth on it before.
I think I poked fun at it every time I saw it.
Yeah, I think you did. So we went back green on lap 21, which means we're roughly about 6 laps away from green flag pit stops. It's going to be interesting to watch these drivers up here at the front. They're still continuing to run with the left sides on that upper white hash mark area. We'll see if they start migrating their way down to the yellow line. That will be the sure signal. Well, okay, as right on cue, Grant Wesley jumps down to the inside of Chuck McClure to take the race lead. So these drivers, I think, are now getting themselves prepared for that easier access onto pit road. And oh my gosh, Chuck McClure, he just barely fit in between of Grant Wesley and Kelly Causey. I thought he was going to hook the right rear of the 88.
Here's where we get a little bit fun, because obviously the pit road on the Talladega, and it looks wide until you're sitting in that seat and you start to woe it down and you realize, man, that's a sharper left turn than I thought. And then you realize, I got to slow down to like 55. That's where the issues begin. And suddenly, I'm locking up my tires. I'm going to slide through this pit.
And here's the other issue too. All the drivers, most of the drivers, if not all the drivers in this field, have mastered what is known as the art of hot pitting, where you can come down to pit road entry at about 80, 90 miles per hour, get on the brakes, woe it down to 55, then let off, and the game will not black flag you. Well, you take about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cars that are all doing the hot pitting and having different areas where they're braking and lifting, that could be a recipe for disaster as well.
And it's a thing of, you may think of it of, man, that seems really risky. Why would they do it? It's really that seconds mean all the difference, where, listen, you can fight for if you're 1 second, 2 seconds off the field, you are out of the draft of the car in front of you. And hey, just think about some guys who are further back in the pack. If they have a really good pit stop and some of these guys get mired in there, hey, that 1 to 2 seconds that they gain them that guy in front of them, well, congratulations, they're either at them or they're in front of them in the pack. So for thinking of some guy, maybe let's pick Mark Paglia out of the field. Hey, a second or 2 seconds of him could mean the race lead.
Speaking of out of the draft, you saw there Tom Dixon, who had lost the lead pack, coming to pit road. Just ahead is the 54 of Robbie Nisus. I'm checking to see, I believe he has made a green flag pit stop just moments ago, so that is why he is going a lap down. And I also noticed that Jason Scheck appears that he might be starting to lose the draft. You see him back there on the top right, trying to stay in touch with Brian Ronson and Bob Dixon. But with the 45 on pit road, Tom Dixon, we usually see Tom and Bob come to pit road a couple laps sooner than everybody else. So we're right on the eve of when we're going to see some drivers dip down there to pit lane. Want to give a shout out to some of the people we've got in our broadcast chat here on YouTube. James Qualls and Donnie Garrett, RTG Tele Challenge driver. Out of town, he said, but dropped in for a second. Appreciate it, Donnie. We're looking forward to seeing the Nature Boy back on track next week at Burt Screwdriver's Raceway. As look out, Dixon Brothers, because here comes the field.
Yeah, and I'm kind of looking at here, and these hot pits are definitely a bit dangerous, as almost in reference in the name. But I mean, you have to be pushing it right on the razor's edge, and unfortunately, these trucks, while they may look fast in a straight line, they don't exactly turn the greatest in the world. So if you're trying to force them down the really narrow pit road and not missing the commitment line altogether, that is a whole different challenge.
Here we go. Got a big group coming in this time, being led by the race leader, Grant Wesley, and Greg Palmer's into the wall, and we've got the caution out. We've got Bobby Farrell around, Jerm Lewis around, Glenn Harris around. Somebody must have come up the racetrack. It might have been Terry Bombard, because normally if an incident happens on pit road, it doesn't bring out the yellow. So somebody came back up onto the racing surface. Not sure who it was, but there it is. Case in point, the treachery of pit lane. And that means with the caution flying, everyone that came down pit road, they cannot take service, or else they would risk taking a 30-second penalty and an EOL. So they have to pass through pit road.
Oh, I'm just going to look back at this replay, and I think I know how this one kind of kicked off here.
First truck I saw out of shape at the front of the group was Greg Palmer, though I'm not necessarily certain it was he that would have brought the yellow flag out.
Yeah, there's a few different instances here, but obviously the
like 3 or 4 spots, right?
Really, what I think caused the caution had to be Terry Bombard. Looks like he just, I don't know if it was a miscommunication or maybe he changed his mind, or maybe just kind of slowed up a little bit too much and Doug just wasn't expecting him. But just a little bit of contact in the right rear, and that's just enough to turn the Terry Bombard all the way to the wall. And unfortunately, there's nowhere for anyone else to go. And I think Robbie Nice got caught up in that in the top line.
We're going to try and look at all the different things that happened here. Greg Palmer locking up the brakes. You talked about how difficult it is for these trucks to turn. Well, case in point there. Got into Jessica Shelton. Looks like Jerm Lewis and Bobby Farrell. They got into each other. Saw Josh Metallic way out there in the grass. I think he might have actually been involved in that Terry Bombard incident. Let's go back here to the 10.
Yeah, and that's an odd one. I think it really was just a bit of checkup. Maybe Doug just didn't expect him to check up that hard, and I completely understand. I think maybe Terry was responding to Jerm Lewis kind of getting out of shape in front of him.
Pretty big hit there for Robbie Nices in the 54, and then there you can see Josh Metallic making the contact. That sent him into the grass. I'm almost wondering, too, the 99, the 10, lined up nose to tail to come down pit road. Notice when the 10 comes off of turn 4, how he's got his left sides on the apron there, on that yellow line, that paint line. It can cause the truck to get a little bit loose and maybe scrub off just a tiny bit of speed there that the 99 wasn't prepared for.
I think maybe. I really think that Terry probably just responded to Jerm spinning in front of him, and he maybe just hit the brakes just a bit, maybe thinking he was going to overcorrect, come back into his line, and Doug just wasn't expecting it. I don't think Doug would. See, that's a tough one.
We're going to see if we can get a more in-depth look at what happened with Bobby Farrell and Jerm Lewis before we head back to live action. Oh, wow, that's what happened to Jerm. Oh, my gosh. Try to get on the brakes. That thing snapped to the left. He actually wasn't involved with Farrell. He was involved with Glenn Harris, and he took a big hit into that Armco barrier with the left side of his machine.
Yeah, I don't know if it was he tried to hit the brakes a little bit too hard and locked up the rears, or just got a little bit out of shape when he tried to dive down with all of them.
See if we can find out who Bobby Farrell made his contact with in that U.S. Air Force 92. He got a bump from behind from Jerm Lewis. So, oh, Doug Woolley, after he got into the back of the 10 of Terry Bombard. He then carried too much speed into the back of Bobby Farrell.
Oof. Well, I said, and that's unfortunately when these pit entries, you're just sometimes a pinball.
We've seen pit road here at both Talladega and Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway be just as treacherous as the racetrack itself, and case in point right there. So first attempt at a green flag pit stop round here in season 59 has a few drivers with potentially some torn up trucks. It's moderate damage, so we talk about this all the time. It's always a wait and see game of, is the damage enough that it's going to have them a couple miles per hour off, where yeah, they can still be in the draft, but they may not necessarily be able to lead a line, or is it enough aero damage that's going to take them completely out of hanging with this pack, and they're just going to have to hope for a race of attrition to pick up spots and subsequently pick up points?
I'm always in the boat of I'd rather have aero damage than have engine damage, where, listen, my engine's full bore. At least I could probably still be a good enough pusher to kind of get you there to the end. But unfortunately, if I got engine damage, it doesn't matter how good my aero is. I just can't keep up with you.
Like Tom Dixon is going to take the wave around. Remember, he had just been on pit road a couple laps prior. Bob Dixon's going to be the recipient of the free pass, as will Robbie Nices. So once those three drivers get the lights out top the pace car and are able to drive around, this should put both Bob and Tom Dixon back in the lead lap and Robbie Nices to -1. Despite all the contact we had there on pit road, nobody out of the race. So we will have 38 of our 39 remaining drivers on the lead lap. The only driver back behind the wall is Doug Hewlick, and that caution was a big break there for Dante Ricky, because we mentioned the fact that drivers that had come down pit road, which was probably about 3/4 of the field by the time that yellow flag flew, they couldn't take service, or else they would have gotten penalized. They had to just pass through pit road. Well, Dante Ricky didn't come to pit lane, so he took the caution as the race leader. Subsequently, he came to pit road as the race leader, and as we can see, left pit road as the race leader. So anybody that planned on going that extra lap there on fuel, it worked out very well for them.
Man, this pit strategy is where I start kind of losing my race a little bit. Obviously, it's a lot easier when you're kind of in the driver's seat, and it may not seem like it. It's a lot easier when you're in the driver's seat, knowing the numbers and trying to make up those decisions. But kind of looking at it from afar, where we don't have the same data that they have, it definitely kind of puts a new spin on it.
Yeah, it's a good point, because we were only able to go by the numbers that we've got up here and by speculation. To your point, when you're down there in the driver's seat, you're able to see, how much fuel you've got, how far you can make it, if you're able to save enough to make it to the end. So, yeah, definitely a big difference between the spectator broadcaster point of view and the driver's point of view. One thing I think that is absolutely certain that driver and broadcaster can agree on is these drivers can't make it on fuel. We're going to be going back green on lap 43. The furthest they'd be able to go would be maybe lap 62 if they're lucky, putting them 4 laps short. Now, we do have to also bring up the possibility, though, that more often than not, our point of no return is lap 62. We've seen it before with Grant Wesley a few seasons ago, where he was able to take the caution at the exact moment that the point of no return took place and clutch and save enough fuel in 3 to 4 laps of pacing to be able to pick up the checkered flag. So that is a possibility, though it is somewhat unlikely. And I think it's safe to say if we get a 5-6 lap run and a caution comes out, everybody's coming to pit road, because then you can make it the rest of the way.
I'm in the boat of, listen, no matter what, I'm running it all the way dry, and we're going to see what happens. If a caution comes out, that definitely makes my decisions a lot easier. But up until I see that caution flag wave, I am 100% committed.
Based off the strategy and the timing of that yellow, our top 10 has gotten a facelift. Dante Ricky and Keith Bynum are the front row, with Nate Balser, Mike Rogers, Tim Nofska the top 5, Dave Melson, JT Mayhew, Brian Shilley, Jeremy Jeffries, and Mark Paglia the top 10. Green flag back in the air as we close in on 20 laps to go. Oh, we're wrecking in the back. I saw Shelton and Palmer around and several others. The caution is back in the air. Field is frozen. They do not race back. Doug Woolley was in it. Jerm Lewis. Basically anybody from about, I would say, 30th on back got bits and pieces of this one.
I think you got a little bit of help there. You just got a little bit of assistance. I think maybe Richard Martin was in wrong gear, or maybe a higher gear, just wasn't already anticipating the restart. Missed the restart badly, and Grant Wesley, I think, tried to give him a little bit of bump to get him going, but unfortunately, that just does not work.
Take a look at it here as did he maybe miss a shift? The 43 truck potentially. Let's see. Into first gear and then ooh. Could have maybe been some wheel spin as well, but
My bet, because I've done this before, and I'm going to tell you, you feel dumb after this. But obviously, under caution, you're trying to save as much fuel as possible. You shifted in the fourth, just trying to keep the RPMs down, just trying to kind of lug the car forward. And then when you go to that restart, you think you're all ready for the restart. You hammer it down, and then you realize, I'm not accelerating. And then you look at it as, oh, I'm in fourth. And kind of reacting to that, I think that may have been the case here.
well, the good news is these drivers were just getting up to speed. Saw Jessica Shelton and Greg Palmer get clipped and spin, but I don't think anybody really sustained much in the way of damage. So obviously, they lost maybe a little bit more track position than what they currently had when they were getting ready to take that restart, but I don't think anybody's going to be out of the race. So, okay, so now here's a big question. Mentioned they were about 4 to 5 laps short on fuel. If we keep getting caution periods here, do you maybe keep the track position, try and clutch, and save enough to make it to the end without having to come to pit road again?
Realistically, I'm just going to come down the pit road because even now, I would rather top off and be maybe all the way good to 64 than just clutch and maybe be good to 62, 63.
Well, few drivers took your advice. Most of the drivers inside of the top 5 did not. They were going to keep that track position. I saw Dave Melson and Jeremy Jeffries. They dove onto pit lane. Melson giving up 6th. Jeremy Jeffries giving up 9th. I think I also saw Mark Paglia from 10th dive onto pit road. So a little mixed bag here in terms of strategy as
I mean,
we've seen a couple of races here before in this series come down to fuel strategy.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of good drivers decide to disagree and lose the race, so I'd love to see that happen.
Well, on that non-egotistical note, we're gonna step aside real quick under this caution period, and we're gonna get another word from Ultimate Garage Floors. Don't go away. We're gonna be back here for the final 20 laps of the season opener of season 59 of the RTG Talladega Challenge Series. The following presentation of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series on the Flatout Racing Network is brought to you by Ultimate Garage Floors. Ultimate Garage Floors is very active in the garage remodeling community, staying current with the latest technologies and custom configurations so that we can bring you the highest quality installations. As a Northern Virginia Exposy flooring installer, we focus on garages and commercial flooring to perfect our craft and bring you high results. In a space that gets as much wear and tear as your garage, you want to be able to trust that the cabinets and flooring we install are ready to withstand against high traffic and regular use. That is why we include a lifetime warranty with our services so that you know we stand behind the quality of our work. To get started with a free consultation, call us at 540-931-9006 or visit us on the web at ultimategaragefloorsva.net. That's ultimategaragefloorsva.net. Continuing to pace here at Talladega, working our third caution of the day. here in the first race of the 59th season of the RTG Talladega Challenge Series. And next time by, we will be at 20 laps remaining, really close on fuel. So let's see if we can find out just how close. Let's see if we can dial up our race leader, Dante Ricky. Hey, Dante, Matt, Rod, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
All right, well, we're trying to crunch the numbers up here, but you've certainly got more of an idea of what the fuel looks like in that Mug Root Beer Toyota Tundra. So this caution helping you guys maybe get a little closer to that fuel number. Do you need another yellow, or should you guys be able to make it from this point?
We will need another yellow to be able to maintain this strategy. Preferably quicker rather than later. So that's the situation we're in. We're about 5 laps short on fuel as it stands. But again, that's an estimate. Anything could happen, and it's a blessing we're able to get back to the lead. You guys probably saw my little pool when I heard that the 23 was blowing his motor. I tried to get into pit road for the first caution flag, but unfortunately the lights came on before I got there. So I was not able to do it, but then the second round of green flag pitting worked out in our favor. So we're just going to hope for another quick yellow. We got some good drivers around us that have been working really hard. And, you know, anybody's race still, though.
So I've got to ask, I mean, if you could pick a lap to have a caution on, not saying that something's going to fly down from the broadcast booth on the track, but if you had to pick a lap, what lap would that be?
I'd like it to be 16 laps ago coming to 15. It happened right at the start finish line, so I could take the yellow and nobody can race me back. That's what I want.
I'll work out my arm, see what I can do.
All right. Appreciate it, Matt. Hey, you guys are doing excellent up there.
So, obviously we want to interview in victory lane by the end of this race, but just in case we're not able to, gotta ask the question, the burning question, what was the pre-race meal?
Well, we had a Wendy's Dave's double with cheese.
Oh, yes.
And French fries tonight, kind of basic. Breakfast this morning was fruit and cantaloupe. So it was all right.
You had the most balanced of all breakfasts.
That's right. Something healthy in there. You can't just eat whatever you want these days.
Yeah, I've learned that one the hard way.
Oh, yeah. But hey, it's a breakfast of champions and a dinner of champions tonight.
Well, I'm going to set Matt onto DoorDash app right now, send some Dave's doubles up to the booth for us, but we'll let you get back to it. Dante, best of luck.
You got it. Anybody's race still at this point. We'll try to do our best.
Absolutely. So Dante Ricky going to be leading them back to green. Nate Balser will line up in second. Nofsker, JT Mayhew, Brian Schilling, the top 5. When we were interviewing Dante, I saw a couple of drivers there dive onto pit lane at this 1 to green. I believe Keith Bynum was one of those drivers. Mike Rogers as well. So
Hey, that one lap can make all the difference.
there's a lot of strategy going on right now. I can't keep up with all of this.
Realistically, I'm all for pitting with the 1 to go, just because it puts you in the best possible place to make it to the end, and you're just trying to give yourself the best chances. I mean, everything's kind of a game of odds here at the moment, and you're just trying to give yourself the best odds to hit that jackpot.
Dante mentioning that if they're going to get that caution, would prefer to have it sooner rather than later. So how much awareness do the drivers that just pitted with that 1 to green starting at the back have to be of the potential of that caution? Because more than likely, if they're going to start making forward progress at the drop of this green, they might be right where that caution could take place.
I think if you're really trying to figure it out, you may want to make your choice really early. Are you really going to be commit to this fuel saving? Do you think this is going to go this way? Or do you really want to try and race it out hoping for that caution? That's the decision that you have to make right now.
Getting ready to go back green. Dante Ricky brings us back to the stripe. It's going to be 19 laps to go from this point out. And Cy Jones saves it. Oh, got another car around, another truck around. Couldn't tell who that was.
Still
was that
green.
Chuck McClure? No, it's Jessica Shelton in the 20. No yellow. That was below the racing surface. And I was going to mention, too, Robbie Nice has got the free pass under this yellow. How impressive. We've worked 3 cautions. Of 40 drivers that took the green, 39 of them still running and on the lead lap.
Yeah, and I'm looking back at that incident. Looks like Ron Hagelin in the 111 just got into the back of Shelton just a little bit. Looks like Jess checked up for the big checkup in front. And Ron was just a little bit late in the brakes. Or maybe Jess was just a little bit too early on the gas or early on the brakes. And kind of kicked that one off, but it doesn't look like Jess is too badly damaged. And looking at Robbie Nice's how many laps he got back, I'm fairly certain that she's not out of this yet.
Dante Ricky trying to lead the top line. Tim Knofsker made the move to the bottom. He's got Brian Schilling with him. Mentioned about last season, Chuck McClure was not able to find victory lanes. Same for Tim Knofsker, two drivers that we're so used to seeing season after season getting at least one trip to victory lane, if not multiple trips, and both of them were winless back in season 58. So looking to start out season 59 with a checkered flag, as right now Jessica Shelton would fall into that category of some of those drivers that want that caution sooner rather than later, so that way she can catch back up. But what about some of these drivers up here now that I'm looking at that ended up pitting under the last yellow? I see Jeremy Jeffries and Dave Melson. They're working their way up on that inside line. I still think, what did Dante tell us, about 5 laps short? So I would think that those drivers that I just mentioned, they'd be in the realm of maybe 2 laps short of the finish.
Depends. Obviously, they're kind of in the best position here where I think they could realistically stay out if we got a caution. And they might, just maybe, would be able to save just enough fuel to get them to the end. That is a huge hope. I really don't think it's possible, but, you know, hey, I've seen crazier.
Ooh, things are getting really dicey at the front. Seen a lot of movement in all 3 of these lanes. Nate Balser was kind of squirrely there in the middle line. Top side, Chuck McClure was trying to line up the bumper with Chris Emery. This could be the proverbial calm before the storm here, because here we go. We talked about 3 wide, stacked up several rows deep, and we're having it here, closing in on 15 laps to go. That's 7 rows deep right now.
Yes, 3 by 3 by 3 by 2 by 3. I think it may still be just a little bit too early in my book to be kind of fighting like this, but you got to think, hey, if you're going to start making your claim to the front now, it's almost go time.
Right now, it looks like we've got 35 drivers up in this lead pack. The stack up that we had on that restart may have caused a couple of drivers to lose the draft. Jerm Lewis, Tom Dixon, Robbie Nisus, they have all seem to lose the draft at this point in time. Got 3 drivers in this middle line. The top line now is Josh Metallic leading it there in that Tony Kanaan livery. I mentioned this back during the All-Star race. Went the entire 58th season of the Tally Challenge with that 39 truck on the racetrack. And, Bob Seminara. My goodness, that thing was all out of shape going to the middle, but recently found out that Geico number 39 of Josh Metallic is a Tony Kanaan livery, an IndyCar fan there.
Huh, weird. It almost looks like the Lotus 79.
I'm not sure if maybe that might be, I don't know. My knowledge of IndyCar is 3 races that I've watched. That's it. So, you know, you could have made something up and I would have agreed with you.
Hey, we gotta go call Chad Frankenfield again. We'll get you the Indy 500.
Yeah, I'll let you make that call. Let you make that call and then have your phone go off at 5 o'clock in the morning. Have fun.
Ooh, yeah, no, I'll pass.
Top 4, single file on that inside line. Bernie Mobbs trying to get clear there on Bob Seminary. You got the Florida gang, might be able to get lined up nose to tail. The 24, the 31, and the 712. Oh, caution's out. Yellow flag is out. We got a spinner on the back straightaway.
They're still spinning.
Couldn't tell who it was. That's Mark Paglia.
Mark Paglia, it looks like the
Wayne Pripp now.
Oh my goodness.
Ron Hagelin and Greg Palmer.
It looks like that checkup that I saw kind of kicked off in the back of the pack. Looks like,
well, Dante wanted a caution. You got a caution.
I didn't even have to throw from the top stands.
You didn't. You were gearing up too. I was watching you.
I didn't even make it past the nosebleeders.
You... Who was that spotter that dropped his sandwich from the pagoda at Indy and they took his card from him?
I think it was Harvick's spotter. He dropped it off the scoring tower and they ripped his hard card off of him.
You think they would take your media pass away if they knew it was your sandwich that
I think
flew into the nosebleeders?
They'd give me a 12-month membership to Planet Fitness.
Let's go back, take a look on the backstretch. What happened to bring out this, our 4th caution of the day?
It just looks like a little bit of checkup, and unfortunately it just kind of went wrong. Checked up at the wrong time. Cy Jones almost got tagged along with it.
Watch the 14 there. Wow.
And
Bill
Ron,
Surratt got a piece of that as well, as did Doug Woolley, a couple of drivers we didn't know that got bits and pieces of that.
Ron took the evasive action trying to avoid the wreck up top, but unfortunately, his evasive action let him face first into the wall. That's going to be at least engine damage.
Yeah, it's a big hit for sure. Kind of reminiscent of the hit that we saw Jerm Lewis take into the inside pit wall during that round of green flag pit stops. And we had mentioned he had lost the draft. So one would have to assume, to your point, that this is going to lose some speed for the 111 as we're going to take a look at that hit that he took here on the backstretch.
Tell you one person who's jumping for joy, that has to be Jessica Shelton. Obviously got involved in that restart wreck, but obviously stayed on the lead lap, stayed in contention. All needs probably just a little bit of damage repair, and hey, you'd be right back up there.
Robbie Nisus as well had lost the draft. This will catch him back up. And I believe Tom Dixon had also lost the lead pack. So big opportunity for all three of those drivers to get back into the running. Wanted to check in on the 84. Looks like he did come to pit lane, as did a number of the other front runners.
Got some split strategy here.
But we're still seeing these leaders up front here. Now Chuck McClure out in front, still throwing in the clutch. You can see when that front end bogs down, that's them cutting off the engine by throwing down the clutch pedal.
If he's anticipating it only getting to 62 because he thinks a wreck's going to happen.
Maybe.
And honestly, it's with how the current flow of the race is going, it's not a bad strategy. However, I haven't really seen any wrecks that I would call, other than mistakes. So I'm a little bit iffy on that.
Trying to remember back to last season. I don't have an exact number, but I think if it was a ratio of races that ended under caution to races that ended under green, I think you'd be looking at 2-1 or 3-1. So the odds certainly are in favor of, if you're playing the strategy of the race ending under yellow past the point of no return. The statistics from last season would actually agree with that. We did have a couple of races, though, last season where we ended up having 3 wide racing all the way back through the field, and they were able to keep it together for about 6-7 laps, and were able to bring it home to the checkered flag. So it's super speedway racing. You never know what it's going to be.
Realistically, you're taking your bets. You're trying to hope that you back the right horse, and maybe one of these days you win that million, but I'm not sure if today's your day.
Well, remember I mentioned 2 drivers that last season were not in victory lane, surprisingly. Look where our top 2 are. Those very drivers, Chuck McClure and Tim Nofsker. Subsequently, with both of those drivers not winning last season, neither of them also made the playoffs, which was a rare disappearance for both of them. So we mentioned it, early season, you get that checkered flag. All you have to worry about for the final 8 races of the regular season is staying inside the top 20 in the point standing. So, boy, to get that load off your shoulders in the early going and just have to really focus on consistency for the remainder of the regular season, as well as maybe, kick it up even a little bit more aggressive to try and get another win or 2, pad your bonus points for the playoffs. I mean, we saw that work out in favor of John Godfrey last season. Somebody wants to do that here this season.
Yeah, and it's really just looking at it here and just saying, hey, what am I willing to lose here? And what I'm looking at that front field is, what are they willing to lose? They're willing to lose a really good spot to take a risk and try and get the win, and trying to get really a good, finish if we do get that caution early. And I think that's really an acceptable risk for the first race of the season. I'm thinking that, hey, look, if I really get the 62, 63, and that caution hasn't come out yet, and I'm almost out of fuel, hey, at least I tried. But I think everyone else is kind of playing that conservative strategy, which is, hey, if that caution doesn't come out, I'm all good to go to the end. It's really just everyone's banking on a different outcome, and it's really just trying to figure out which outcome is going to happen.
Should get the lights out on the pace truck this next time by, so we will be restarting with less than 10 to go. Should be 9 to go when we get back underway. And you brought up a key word there, risk. What are you willing to risk? We do have to mention, we've had this happen before in the past few seasons, where a driver has battled for the win. They've thrown a block. They've made a move that has caused a wreck. During the race week, the admins go back. They look at the incidents. They look to see if a driver is responsible. And we've had a couple of times where a driver has crossed the finish line first, but they have been deemed responsible for the race-ending caution and been put at the tail end of the lead lap. So, in terms of defensive driving and offensive driving for the win, yeah, you want to go all out. You want to make sure that you are going to, plant your foot, make the move, stay committed to it, and hope that it doesn't cause an incident. But at the same time, there's got to be a little bit of hesitancy there because, a second, third place finish is a lot better than a 30th place finish.
I think what these admins have done is they've really just placed in the hands of the drivers that saying, look, you're in control of your car. Obviously, if things happen outside of the control, hey, we'll look at it. But at the end of the day, you're in control of your car. You're in control of what happens. If you're out of control and this causes a wreck, hey, this is what's the consequence going to be.
A lot of drivers have had to mount some comebacks here tonight. We've had some stack ups on restarts. We've had some incidents on green flag pit stops. But at this point in time, all 39 drivers still running are on the lead lap. It's the biggest field we've had in quite a while. 9 laps to go. Let's say that maybe this race does end under caution, so that would give us about 5 laps to go before the point of no return. Is there enough time, do you think, for drivers outside the top 25, top 30 to be able to work their way up here to the front of the field, or are they just now basically trying to look for a top 10, top 15?
Easily, I think if you can get enough guys together, you can really make that run. But it's how much the top 10 guys at the moment are trying to block. And they know that you are coming with good enough fuel so you can either stay back or you can risk it. And that's the biggest kind of threat here is they got the track position, but they don't have the fuel. You don't have the track position, but they have the fuel to make it. So it's really the game of who's going to outlast the other.
Well, folks, this is the first race of the season. Want to remind you to tune in next week. These drivers will pack it up and head to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway as we alternate between Talladega and BSR. It'll be the first appearance for Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway here in season 59. Chuck McClure's got the bonus point for most laps led locked up here tonight. When he crosses the line, he will be completing his 21st circuit out in front. He'll have Tim Knopfsker to his outside. Row 2 with Joe DeSpirito and Brian Schilling. Bob Seminara will complete the top 5. Josh Metallic in 6th. Bernie Mobb 7th. Craig Hagley in 8th. 9th, Rodney Sullins. And Billy Elliser is going to complete the top 10. 9 laps to go here in the season opener. The question is, are we racing to the checkers or maybe to the point of no return? Here we go. It's the Jack Daniels Chevy Camaro that gets us back under the green.
It's an odd-looking Camaro.
You're right. They don't make them like they used to.
They were built different.
The Camerado? Is that a thing?
There's a little bit of movement. It looks like from Rodney Solins, or actually, no, it was not Rodney Solins. That was Dave Melson. Looks like he got a little bit of help on the rear, but definitely managed to rein it back in. But now he's got Grant Wesley behind him.
Things were squirrely at the front there, too. Tim Knopfsker was a little out of shape. I don't know if he got a little bumper grab off the back of the 17 or maybe an uneven bump from the 4 of Brian Schilling behind him. Now you've got them stacked up 3 wide around the 7th, 8th position. That's Billy Elliser stuck in the sucker hole. The Talladega and BSR tracks. Oh, we got a spinner! Joe DeSpirito back up into the pack. The big one is struck.
That is the bravest pace truck I've ever seen. Everyone was involved with that, at least back in the field. Oh my goodness.
I can give you a list here. I saw Grant Wesley, Jeff Crivello. DeSpirito was the one that spun. Dante Ricky, I think, was in it.
I know I saw Bob Dixon in the air.
Yep, I think I saw another car or another truck that was facing backwards that I thought was going to get airborne, but I don't think they did. Now, with the timing of that yellow, we were at less than 10 to go, which is race back, but there was only about 100 feet between the timing of the caution and when the leader crossed the start-finish line, so they technically were basically racing back to the yellow at that point in time. Oh, let's go back and see if we can find out what happened here. We know it starts with the 24 of Joe DeSpirito on the apron. Trying to remember who it was that was behind him. I believe it was the 712 of Bob Seminara. But that was Didn't even look like an uneven bump there in the tri-oval, but the tri-oval is such a sketchy area. Where the truck unloads is where you're turning left rather than holding the wheel straight.
I that's where I classify this as. I think it was really just, I don't know. I'm a little bit leaning towards racing deal because I'm looking at the laps, I'm factoring it in. I'm saying, okay, well, we've got this many laps to go. Obviously, people are going to start pushing in places that they probably didn't push earlier in the race, probably weren't going to push earlier in the race. That's my thinking there. I could be entirely wrong.
You talked about Bob Dixon going up and over. It was Mike Rogers that got into him
Oh,
and
my
also went
goodness.
upside down and kind of flung the 143, which we'll look at right here.
You know, it kind of reminds me of, I think it was Allmendinger a few years back. They went almost end over end.
Wow.
My goodness.
You almost can't even call that a barrel roll. That's kind of almost more like a torpedo. Going forward and rotating at the same time.
I mean, it looks scary looking from here, but imagine in the car. I mean, obviously you're going straight one moment, next moment you're kind of just barrel rolling.
Our camera survived. Do you want to go inside that car?
I'm having enough issues already.
Oh, well, then close your eyes because we're going on board. Oh, he almost got through that. Wow.
And that's the thing, like,
Oh, and then he got another hit there from Greg Palmer.
realistically, whenever you see these wrecks, you have to make your best guess judgment of where you think these cars are going to go. And, you know, hey, you can't win them all. Sometimes you guess right. Sometimes, I've guessed really wrong. And it looks like in this case, it just kind of guessed wrong and didn't have enough time. And realistically, there's nothing he could have done to avoid that besides maybe taking a different line.
We talk about tough area of the racetrack for racing back, but at the same time also a tough area of the racetrack for avoiding the wreck. Because to your point there, you know, we're at the point where it is race back to the start finish line. Yeah, you see the wreck up ahead of you. If you let off, you might be able to find a way through, but at the same time, you take your foot off the gas and somebody else finds their way through. That's a position, that's a point that you're losing to your competition. So it's a catch-22 of, do I keep my foot in the throttle and hope that the waters part for me and maybe end up tearing up my truck in the process and ending my race, or do I lift and maybe hope that that's going to be the way of getting through?
I don't know. How I view it is how many people were spinning around me. If I can look into the soul of the next driver in front of me, that tells me that I don't know if I'm making through this one alive. But if I'm sliding and I can see the wall, but I think my car is getting grip, I would do exactly what Grant and Wesley did, and I just power it back up, hope I'm going to miss everyone when I come back across. And unfortunately, the seas just didn't part.
This is the first caution tonight that is going to take drivers out due to crash damage. We only had one other driver in the garage here, and that was due to mechanical failure that brought out the first caution of the day in Doug Kulik, but he will now be joined by Bob Dixon and Jerm Lewis behind the wall. They're scoring the 45 of Tom Dixon a lap down. Not certain if he is still on the track or not. Do not see him, so I think he may have actually retired from the race as well, though our scoring is not showing him as a DNF. So he would get credited for 39th, leaving us with 36 drivers left running, all on the lead lap. And now, with this timing of this caution, now we're basically racing to the next flag. If the caution comes out, once we go green, it's race back to the start-finish line, race is over. If we get to the white flag, we do race back to the checkers. We're going to be crossed over the point of no return when the green flag goes back in the air.
And here's where I'm really liking the situation of some of the guys who stayed out. You've had back-to-back cautions. You've had some time to save as much fuel as you can. Right now, I wouldn't be outside of the realm of saying, listen, you're racing to the next flag. I think you're racing to the caution flag before you're racing to the checkered flag here. I like the position of some of these guys. I think some of them might be able to make it to the end.
Well, again, the latter half of the top 10 getting a little bit of a change of scenery of who is up there off of where that wreck took place. That was around the 6th, 7th position when Joe DeSpirito spun. So you've got McClure, Nofsker, Schilling, and Metallic still the top 4, but now Craig Hagley is up to 5th. Keith Bynum is 6th. Rodney Sullins back up in the top 10 now in 7th, Bernie Mobbs in 8th, then Kelly Causey and Terry Bombard there in 10th. So there's your pusher, that 10 truck.
I wouldn't count him out just yet. I think he may have a little bit of engine damage, or maybe a little bit of aero, but I think he's still got what it takes.
Take it a little bit further back through the running order here, because these drivers still would have a shot. They're still within striking distance, and as Matt alluded to, you can generate enough of a run, get enough friends, you can work your way up to the front of the field here. You got Jeremy Jeffries in 11th, Jason Scheck is 12th, Billy Elliser 13th, 14th, JT Mayhew, Jeff Crivello in 15th, then Grant Wesley, Richard Martin, Dave Melson, Brian Ronson, Milt Surratt. That is your top 20. We had no need for a lucky dog, as all drivers running were on the lead lap at the time. And it's going to be a 4-lap shootout to decide the first checkered flag here of season 59.
Ooh.
Got a lot of former champs up here right now. McClure,
just
Schilling,
got
Josh Metallic.
some concerning news.
Uh-oh.
The 99 has no third gear.
Doug Woolley going to be restarting back in 23rd. We've had a couple of stack-ups on some previous restarts, so we'll keep an eye on that. I just noticed a bunch of drivers, they were still saving. They were in 4th gear. Just saw a lot of downshifting there off of turn 4. So don't know just how close these drivers are on fuel, but I assume if they were
You
not
got
going to
what
be
you
able
got
to
at this
make
point.
it. Yeah, if they were not going to be able to make it, they would have been on pit road the last caution.
I'm not telling anyone else. You'll learn when I'm out.
You'll be the first to know.
When your bumper meets mine, we'll learn.
Green flag set to come back out. It'll be for the final time here tonight. Chuck McClure waiting for the flagman. Green flag back in the air. Next flag ends the race, whether it be the caution or the white flag. Oh, and there's the wreck in the back you were talking about. It was the 99 of Doug Woolley. We now have 2.66 miles to race it back to the proverbial checkers.
I'm just looking here. You see guys in the middle of the pack trying to make something happen, but you got everyone in the front of the pack trying to figure out what they can scramble up here in the last lap.
Brian Schilling, big push there from Craig Hagley up to the back bumper of Chuck McClure. Does Schilling try and make a move? You got a top line trying to form there with Tim Nofsker, but I don't think they've got enough time nor enough momentum. Schilling might be waiting until turn 4, but if he makes a move, does Craig Hagley go with him in the 32?
I don't know. I'd hug that bottom no matter what.
Here goes Craig. He's going to go to the top. He's got Rodney Sullins to help him, as well as Tim Nofsker. Can they get enough momentum? It doesn't look like it. Chuck McClure is going to take the caution. McClure is going to win the season opener here at Talladega. Schilling crosses second. Hagley's going to complete the podium.
I can tell you, everyone in the back of the pack, I think everyone's doing that collective dance, hoping that the front field runs out of gas.
I think that this caution, if you were close, I think this caution seals it. I think you can definitely make it now.
Easily, I think this seals it.
We've seen the caution come out at times where the top guns aren't able to have enough time to generate a run, to be able to make a move. But here they had almost the entire lap to be able to try and make something happen. Now, obviously the trucks weren't up to full song, so maybe it would have been a little bit difficult in that regard, but it seemed like Brian Schilling was pretty committed to the 17 of Chuck McClure, and that's a pretty tough duo to beat.
I think if they had one more lap, or that caution came out just after they crossed the line, I think they really could have made something more happen there, but just because, like I said, these cars require so much momentum. That first lap is spent really trying to get up the speed, and unfortunately, just didn't have speed.
We'll be going back and taking a look at what brought out the caution here in just a moment. Doug Woolley is not going to reach the conclusion of this race, and I think it's pretty safe to say you talked about the third gear missing issues for the 99. Seeing him around, I'm almost wondering if maybe somebody didn't get the memo and may have run him over, bringing out this final caution of the day.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Like, I understand trying to stay out there and trying to have a chance. I'm divided in that one, where I'm a fan of racing with what you got, but unfortunately, with it being so late in the race, there really was no other outcome that could have happened.
Big hit there for Wayne Pribnow and that Miller Lite number 14. Although he was involved after the initial contact. I thought it started potentially with him. Let's see who indeed it was that got the 99 truck. And it looks like maybe it was Greg Palmer in the 22. Oh, actually,
It was a
99.
checkup in front.
Yeah, I was going to say the 99 wasn't the one that really caused it. It was the 20. Well, I guess we could even go even further up there with the 43, then the 21, then the 54. Watch the left side of your screen.
It really looks like Brian missed it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the 21. I think
Or
you're right.
he never shifted out of fourth, which honestly could have happened.
Maybe restarted in second gear, which is a little bit sluggish on the restart than first gear.
That would have to be third. There's no way in the world that would be second.
Back up under the restart. Puts us under the caution, and we'll end the race under the caution. A couple of other drivers that got tail end of that, along with Wayne Pribnow, included Ron Hagelin and Bob Seminara. They're going to finish pretty deep in the field as a result. I believe Seminara was back there taking responsibility for the previous caution, the contact between himself and Joe DeSpirito, so it didn't get any better for him in this final shootout. Next time by should be the white flag for Chuck McClure. I believe the last time Chuck McClure went to victory lane was back in season 57. Gonna double check on which race that was. I believe it was during the playoffs. I might be wrong. The white flag is now in the air for Chuck McClure. Craig Hagley's going to get his first career podium. Well done to him. Rodney Sullen's going to bring it home in fourth. Fifth place for Kelly Causey. The way the playoffs work here in this series, the top 10 in points are automatically locked in, and then any driver, any race winner that is inside of the top 20. We ended up having, correction on that. It's actually the top 12 in points that make it into the playoffs, and then any driver with a win inside the top 20, which is why we ended up having 13 drivers make the playoffs last season when Doug Hulick was outside of the top 12 but inside of the top 20. And the answer on the Chuck McClure's last victory, October 20th of 2022, race 8.
Ooh.
Just before the playoffs in season 57.
So, Seth, how about that strategy, huh?
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention anything, but Dante Ricky followed your strategy, and he was involved in the next to last caution.
We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
A couple more corners here for Chuck McClure. If I recall correctly, back in season 57, he ended up crossing the line in first, but ended up getting EOL'd for causing a late race incident. Rodney Sullins ended up getting the victory. Chuck McClure was nowhere in the vicinity of the incident that ended this yellow flag, so I'm pretty certain this one is going to stand and going to snap that long winless streak.
I'm looking at the rear end of that 17. It looks a little low. I don't know if it's going to pass.
I think that's all the whiskey that's in the trunk. all that Gentleman Jack.
Man, that stuff burns.
I wouldn't know. Well, tell you one thing that's going to burn, that's the tires of the number 17 truck in just a few moments, because he's going to come across the line. He's going to pick up the victory, the first checkered flag of the season. Chuck McClure, the winner at Talladega. And Brian Schilling, I think, was trying to push him past the pace car. Congratulatory bump there from the four Brian Schilling, who's going to bring it home with a solid runner-up finish. Going to show you the official finisher results here in just a moment once everyone has crossed the line. 35 drivers finishing this race on the lead lap. After 6 cautions here tonight, only 5 drivers back in the garage area for the number of cautions we had and number of drivers involved in a few of them. Very impressive that we ended up having majority of the field. 35 of the 40 still taking the checkered flag here tonight. We're going to stay here for McClure's burnout, and then we'll show you the finishing results from this race. Obviously, with it being the first race of the season, most of what you'll see for the finishing order will be what the point standings will look like heading into next week. So safe to assume that the top 10, or top 12 rather, in points would be the drivers currently in possession of playoff spots, but there were 8 regular season races last year, 9 regular season races this season. With the minus of a regular season race last year, there was a sense of urgency, it seemed, of drivers trying to find victory lane for playoff positions. How do you think the X factor is going to be with adding that extra race back here for those drivers?
I think it makes guys who definitely are a little bit more explosive, definitely a little bit more, hey, I'm going to try and swing for the fences, see what I can do. And maybe they have a little bit more bad finishes. It kind of gives them a little bit more leeway of, hey, once they get to that point of, I don't know if I can send it any harder, we can kind of pull it back with some good finishes. That one extra race will just be just enough to get them in.
Here's the look at your finishing results. Gave you the top 5. Knopfsker's going to bring it home 6th. Metallic 7th. Jeffries in 8th. Keith Bynum there in the top 10 in 9th. Bernie Mobbs will complete the top 10 with his Dodge. Billy Elliser, Terry Bombard, JT Mayhew, Grant Wesley, and Jeff Crivello going to complete the top 15. Look down here through the remainder of the finishing results, and there's quite a number of names that kind of stand out that didn't get the best of performances here. Bobby Farrell, who was one of the most consistent drivers last season, was leading the points for a good majority of that regular season. Dante Ricky back there, Mark Paglia, Joe DeSpirito, Richard Martin, Bob Seminara. For the most part, a lot of those drivers had stayed out of trouble for the first half of this race. It was the cautions in the latter half that put them in the back of the pack and into that kind of loss of track position, which they were never really able to regain.
Yeah, and that's the thing where I understand the risk that they took. I'm not saying that it was a bad move. Definitely was the wrong move, but I'm not saying that it wasn't a good move. It was the fact of they were banking on this going to green to the end, but just off of trends and how the race at least kind of felt from a kind of perspective, it definitely felt like it was not going to go the distance. But I understand the risk of, hey, look, this has the chance to go to distance, and if it does, all these guys in front of us are in a really bad spot. Let's try to take advantage of it. So realistically, it was a really good plan. It just didn't pan out.
Chet McClure might be trying to set the record this season for longest burnout. Doug Hewlick, 1 season ago, heading into next week's race, the first race ever at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, was the winner. He'll look to do that next week after he finished in 40th place here tonight. And we now head into our FRN post-race wind down and get ready to talk to our podium drivers. Let's kick things off with a guy that gets his first podium finish of his career here in the Tally Challenge. Let's see if we can dial up the driver, the number 32, Craig Hagley. Hey, Craig, Matt and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Sure do. What's going on, guys?
Man, that truck rather, looked really good here tonight. Up there inside of the top 10 for most of this race, and most importantly in the top 5 in the closing stages. We saw you try and make that move there on the top side coming out of turn 4, and we were having this little discussion of the fact that you guys really only had 1 lap and weren't completely up to full speed to be able to try and make moves for the race win. Did you need maybe that extra lap of getting up to speed for that move to actually work, or what was the factor that would have helped you get up past the 4 and the 17?
Yeah, probably one more lap would have helped out a lot, but I had Rodney there pushing me, and I think one more lap we could have probably got by everybody, but we did good.
So I've got to ask, how close were you on fuel there at the end? We were trying to work up our numbers, but we just weren't sure if you guys were actually good to go all the way with the caution laps, or if it really would have been dicey around 64, 65.
I believe I had 2 or 3 left coming to the flag, so.
Now, we saw you end up making your debut around the midway portion of last season, kind of getting your feet wet, making some alliances there during the course of the second half of the regular season. Now here full-time, trying to make it into the playoffs. How important was it for you here tonight to get this first start of your first full-time season with a podium run?
It's pretty exciting. I just wanted to have a good finish tonight to start off the year good, and I couldn't ask for more. And I couldn't ask for any more help from teammates that I have. Everybody's been really good at helping me get adjusted and get acquainted with everybody.
Great momentum to start out the season. We look forward to seeing you continue that next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Before we let you go, though, Craig, the floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
I just want to say hi to my son Lane, say hi to my buddy Jeff, and thanks to all my teammates. And thanks for everybody for putting the race on.
That's Craig Hagley. Brings it home third place here tonight in the Season 59 season opener at Talladega. Congratulations once again. Best of luck next week at BSR.
Thanks, guys.
See if we can dial up our second place finisher here tonight. Let's see if we get a hold of Brian Schilling. Brian, Matt Rod, and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Yeah.
Well, we saw you in position to maybe be able to take a checkered flag here tonight, but it looked like you were pretty committed to the back bumper of that 17. Was that the case, or was there just not enough time, not enough momentum to be able to make a move on him?
No, I owe Chuck. He's always been our motto has always been never leave our wingman. So he's pushed me to wins. I gladly return the favor to him. So, I owed him from 2 seasons ago when he pushed my damaged truck to the championship. So, any chance that I can help him, I gladly will run second.
So I'll throw the question to the strategy. I mean, what was really your deciding factor in not coming in, just staying out, and we're kind of running the gauntlet?
Just kind of taking my feel for the race. I figured it was pretty racy. Some crazy things were happening, and I figured I needed one yellow to save enough fuel there. I was floating between 2 and 3 laps short till we got that one with about what was it, 10 to go or so.
Now, when we saw that there were going to be 40 trucks taking the green flag here tonight, and with it being a season opener, clean slate for everybody, you're building off of this race. We expected we were going to see some cautions. Kind of seemed like it was difficult for you guys to get into a rhythm, though. We almost had a round of green flag pit stops twice. Ended up having an untimely caution, break that up. Had a couple of restart stack-ups at the rear of the field. So are you expecting that this is going to be a running trend here, at least in the early portion of the season? Or do you think that since we were just talking about the fact that now it's going to be a 9-race regular season as opposed to the 8 races you guys had last year, drivers, they had to just get this one race out of their system, things will calm down, and it'll be more of a strategy type race for the rest of this regular season?
It's hard to say. It seems like you get weeks like this with some craziness, and then the following week it'll calm down, and then things will kind of ramp up again. So it's always hard to guess.
Well, Brian, a great way to start out the season for you, trying to pick up another championship here. If you end up doing that at the end of the season, we'll be looking back probably at this being maybe the springboard for that. Second place here tonight in the season opener, going to get some good points, currently in a playoff position as well. I know you're going to want to get that one position better next week at BSR, so we wish you luck on that. Before we let you go, going to give you the opportunity to thank some sponsors and do some shout-outs.
Congratulations to Chuck. Like I said, I still owe you a ton from a couple seasons ago. I wouldn't have won that race without your help. Glad I could return the favor. Thank you, Josh, Tim, Jason Scheck, Wiley, who's a little under the weather. Hopefully you feel better for next week. All the other admins that help out during the week, thank you. Thank you to everybody who shows up. I mean, that huge field. I mean, it's, this game is 20 years old, and we're still putting 40 cars in, on Thursdays. So thank you, everybody that shows up. And also thanks for putting on the broadcast. Always a good show.
Absolutely. That's Brian Schilling, second place here tonight in the Season 59 season opener at Talladega. Congratulations on the great run. Best of luck next week as we continue on the season at BSR.
Thank you.
And last but not least, let's see if we can dial up our race winner. I just noticed a very democratic top 3, a Ford in third, a Dodge and Chevy, or Dodge in second, and a Chevy in victory lane here for our podium. Let's see if we can dial up Chuck McClure. Hey, Chuck, Matthew Rodriguez, Seth Cole up here in the booth. You got us?
How you doing, fellas?
Oh, we looked back October 20th of 2022, the last time we saw the 17 in Victory Lane. It was amazing. We didn't see this truck in Victory Lane last season. How good does it feel to finally get back to Victory Lane? And more importantly, do it here in the season opener. Get that monkey off your back. Know that you're going to have a locked up playoff spot. And now you got 8 races to just try and continue to pad those playoff points.
Yeah, that I needed that really bad, and I don't think that was a monkey. That was a big old gorilla. I had a horrible season last year. Uh, Part of it my fault. I'd like to apologize to everybody that was watching me for the dumb things I was doing last year. I got desperate, but this year is totally different. This feels great.
So I've got to ask, we kind of heard Brian's perspective, but what about your perspective? I mean, did you have any fear that Brian was going to kind of go against his agreement and pull out, drive by you?
Well, we kind of got a little bit of agreement, like you said, but if he's got to run, I'm not gonna do anything to stop him per se. I mean, we're teammates, but we all need wins, and yeah, I mean, I looked, he didn't seem to be making a move, so I knew we were good.
So I mentioned about the fact that now you can kind of focus on some other things here in these final 8 regular season races. What do you have at the top of your list now? Is it find more trips to Victory Lane and rack up those bonus points, or are you looking maybe to get that regular season championship, because we know that that also pays out a lot of bonus points when the playoff grid's put together?
Yeah, I'd like to do both. Honestly, I win a couple more and get some, get the championship, but we got to get the teammates in the chase as well, and it's a team thing here. If you don't help them when they help you, you're not going to be on a team very long.
Yeah, we were bantering this around during that cool down lap watching you do your burnouts about the fact that last year you talked about the desperation. You guys only had 8 regular season races to make it into the playoffs. Now we're back to 15 races, 9 regular season races, along with the 6 playoff races. How important is it for the psyche of a driver to have that extra race in the regular season now to be able to make it into the postseason?
It's very important. I got to tell you, I could have used it last year for sure, but don't have to worry about this year. Just get solid top 10s, top 15s, and I think we'll be okay.
Well, we know that the drivers always want to get that first victory of the season, get that sigh of relief knowing that they're going to be in the postseason and just have to make sure they stay up in the top 20 in points. You're able to do that here tonight. Congratulations. Before we let you get back to your celebrating, the floor is yours for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors and shoutouts.
I'd like to thank you guys for putting this on. I love watching these things the next day or tonight or sometime. You guys do a great job. And of course, the admins here at RTG, all my teammates. And I really appreciate some of the guys that I run against last year that maybe, having a really bad season last year. And they all come up and congratulated me or rubbed my door. And that meant as much to me as winning did.
Chuck McClure, he is your winner in tonight's season opener of season 59. He got to burn it down here this evening at Talladega Superspeedway. Congratulations, Chuck. Best of luck here for the remainder of the season. Going to be a lot of fun to watch this 17 truck in these final 8 regular season races in preparation for the playoffs.
I appreciate it, guys.
That is going to conclude our coverage here tonight from Talladega. Well, we kind of figured coming into this one, being the season opener. I mean, you said go ham. It's a clean slate. Everybody's at 0 points. You got 8 races. If you make a mistake here tonight, you suffer a DNF. You got 8 races to be able to make it back up and try and find victory lane. I think a lot of drivers had that mentality here tonight.
Yeah, that was my huge kind of push to take that risk of, hey, we potentially running it dry, was just because, hey, it's the first race of the season. If I get a bad finish here, some people will let that set the tone for the rest of their season. But hey, on some cases, it really does pay out, like we saw today with Chuck.
So, okay, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but I keep talking about the fact that there's 9 regular season races. Is there enough time for you to go into race 2, race 3 with the same mentality? Or now that we've got this one race under our belts, do you have to start focusing now on consistency in case you don't find victory lane?
It's really about how much confidence you have in yourself. I mean, if you're willing to bet, hey, bet the farm on yourself, honestly, keep swinging for the fences. You're bound to hit. You swing enough, you're bound to hit something. But if you start to lose confidence, or if you're really starting to question, like, can I really do this? Can I really get a win? that's the point where you need to instantly start racing for points. Where, listen, at that point, if you lose the confidence that you have in, trying to get a win, don't try and force something that isn't there.
Don't want to get to the point, as we heard from Chuck McClure from last season. You don't want to get into that point of desperation. Well,
when you get desperate, you get dumb.
Yeah. When you get desperate, you make mistakes, and you can't make a mistake in super speedway racing, because more often than not only is it going to affect you, but it's going to affect the other drivers on the racetrack as well. But wow, wild one here tonight. Chuck McClure, when the dust settles, is the one that brings home the checkered flag. So now we're going to have to wait and see who else is going to be joining him in the playoffs, either through top 12 in the standings or through a race victory. And we hope you guys continue this journey with us. Next week, we're going back to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway for its first race of the season. We had a Cinderella fuel strategy story there last year in its debut. We'll see if maybe that'll be the case next week. Green flag next Thursday night, scheduled to fly at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Matt, it's been great here in the booth with you here tonight. Your strategy was a little lacking, but your commentary was great. So appreciate having you.
I always got to take sometimes. Sometimes some will land, sometimes some don't.
Hey, I mean, you were talking about the drivers taking a swing. You took a swing here tonight. You didn't hit anything, but you took a swing.
Hey, at least I was in the participation log.
At least you were in the batter's box. Thanks to everybody here tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed our coverage. Until next week, for Matthew Rodriguez, I'm Seth Cole. You've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.